Welcome, 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 ladies and gentlemen, and ladies, cats and dogs, children of all ages, and everything in between. You know who it is. It is the kid, Unc Just, the pizza freak, always resonating at that pizza frequency. What is that pizza frequency? Well, it means I love talking about pizza, I love making pizza, but mostly I love sharing pizza with people that I give a shit about. Yes, literally breaking bread with mother stinkers that I care about. And I have a sneaking suspicion that you too, my friends, also resonate at said pizza frequency, or why else would you be here? And where is here? Well, I tell you, I don't even know. I mean, where is here? Where is our footing these days, my friends? It seems to be a moving target. But where we are, this is what we've coined this. This is dun da 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 Leaven Foods Instant Sourdough Pizza Class with Noel Brohner from Slow Rise Pizza, Jimmy Gaff from Leaven Foods, and our special. We're in the presence of royalty, Jonathan Goldsmith, Spacca, Napoli, out of Chicago, Chi-Town's own. So we're gonna get into it. We're gonna wax the phyllo dough. That's what we're gonna do. And I'm not talking puff pastry. I'm talking about the philosophy of dough. You know that Leaven Foods and Slow Rise have come together for this instant sourdough idea, and it's very exciting. Now we're going to break a few eggs to make some omelets. The boys did a little dance out there at the Expo. I haven't heard much about it. Noel's been zipped mums. But today I'm going to press him a little bit. I want to get some deets, some dirty deets, see what happened. Because what bakes in Vegas, what pies in Vegas, you got to bring me some leftovers. I need some sloppy seconds. I don't know if that metaphor works, but I think you know what I'm talking about. So this is going to be really interesting. I want to hear what the boys did. I want to hear how it went. There was, crisp Biancos, and there was Napoli tomatoes, and then there were unis, and there were halos, and there were 100% hydratos, and all these fantastic things. So, but we're trying to bring this to market, right? This instant sourdough. And we're really excited that you guys are curious enough to see, because what it really does is, it's all about that flavor, right? Coaxing as much flavor out of our Foundé dough as possible. And these guys are going to help out a lot of people to really up the level while in the back end, reducing a lot of the excess work and hopefully the cost with it. And today we're going to get into a little bit of that. And then we're going to get a history lesson from the man, the myth, the legend, Jonathan Goldsmith. So I'm really excited. Jono's been doing the dance with Noel and I since Pandemo days, if you want to go that far. Back when I had a little bit more hair and a little less gray in the old beard. But, and guys, if you're on here, it's also Noel's birthday week, so I might have to sing him a little song at the end. So let us not waste any more time. Let's bring on the birthday boy himself, Mr. Slow Rise. No, and I got the blue bell. Oh, I got the blue bell. I'm going to blue bell him on. Ladies and gentlemen, the birthday boy, Noel, Mr. Slow Rise, Noel Slow Rise Pizza Brohner.
Why do you insist on embarrassing me so?
What are you talking about? You're to be celebrated. It's your birthday. You're looking good.
You.
Come on.
Feeling good.
Come on. What are you, 20, 26?
58, I think.
Oh, my gosh. Are you kidding me?
58.
We have beers this week in our calendar. You and I have a date. Noel and I like to go to this little Irish pub and share a Guinness or three.
Maybe tomorrow night. What are you doing tomorrow night?
Maybe tomorrow, Tuesday after evening. How was the Expo? I wanted to do a Noel and Justin dissection. Noel said, "No, we're not going to do it. I'm just going to give you the Cliff Notes." So give it to me.
I mean, it was exhausting. We got there on Sunday. James and Cameron and Sienna left before the crack of dawn.
From Sandusky, came up Santa Monica.
Full pickup truck, and then I loaded out all of my stuff onto the driveway, and we were like, "There's no way we can fit it all." And then James and Cameron went to work, and
you got geniuses, you got Tetris geniuses. They know how to pack.
I couldn't believe it. I was ready to drive my own car with all my own stuff, but no, they fit us all in.
So then bypassed Barstow right into Vegas and straight to Metro Pizza, or what was the deal?
Straight to Metro Pizza. We had to get 2 mixes in on Sunday, two
Okay.
big mixes.
Now, what is big? Is that 50 pounds, 100 pounds? What are you doing?
50, 100 pounds, so right in that
Okay.
range.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
because
John Arena was gracious enough to say, "No, what's yours is mine. What's mine is yours. Please come in." And yeah, another titan of the industry. So that's and gracious as all get out. And so spreading the love, these hands. So
yeah.
you guys got there. You did the mixes, right? You scored.
And
Like,
there was no room for any even one small error, not one. And James and I we had run through the moves that we would be making in San Diego for a week, and we had been kind of like battle testing the dough or the doughs, all the different recipes. Also, we had to totally change a lot of the times, because basically once we were up and running at the expo, we'd wake up at 3:45 in the morning. We'd
Baker's
have
hours.
breakfast at 4:45. We'd be at the bakery at 5:30. We'd get the dough out as fast as we possibly could so that we could start baking at 6:30. Be done, let the bread cool for at least a half hour from 8 to 8:30. Then we hit the road in the pickup, and they got these they bought these really nice half speed racks where we cooled,
wow.
a lot of beautiful bread every day. We would
And
bring
so
about 50 loaves.
and tell me, you're using this product that we're talking about today, this instant sourdough product.
Yeah, so we used 2 of the 3 instant sourdough products, and each day we made about 25 loaves of each, and we sampled them at Chris Bianco's tomato company's booth. It's called Bianco de Napoli. And so Rob and Chris were nice enough to let us piggyback off their booth, and so we popped up there all 3 days, and then we popped up at Pizza Master as well on Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday we popped up at the Uni booth. And
Wow.
so
And you got to fiddle with the new Uni mixer, the Halo mixer, yeah?
oh yeah, it was great. So
And you were saying you were speed racking your samples all throughout the expo floor, huh?
So the way that it went down was that we made bread for Bianco de Napoli, 2 kinds of bread, sourdough and wild yeast, 25 loaves each, big loaves.
Now that was
And then,
sourdough that you made with the wild yeast, or just sourdough?
hold on, we'll get to that.
Okay.
One of them was a sourdough, and one of them was a wild yeast. They're 2 different things. Then we made pizza, like regular round pies, at the Pizza Master booth on Tuesday. And then I did 2 mixing demos with the new Uni Halo Spiral on Wednesday and Thursday. One was a 100% hydration dough, which we used Caputo flour for, and it was really wonderful. I wanted to try to break the mixer on the floor of the Pizza Expo, which I did not do.
Good.
I was hoping for smoke and flames, but I got neither.
They're pretty well built.
They're beautiful. And the great thing was that then the next day I did my second demo where I made something more traditional, like 70% hydration, but I tasted everybody on the 100% hydration dough, 50% whole wheat, 40% levain, and people went nuts. It was so good. In fact, I even froze a half of a loaf that was left over, and at my birthday party last night, I served it to everybody.
Oh.
Even frozen, it was delicious.
I didn't get that invite.
No, you did not. It was VIP only. And last night you were not a VIP.
I get it.
Tuesday you'll be a VIP.
I get it. Jeez Louise.
Well, thank you for letting me get a few words in a row, by the way.
Well, I'm trying to keep this boat on the show. No.
Well, it's already 5:09, so we got 1 more minute. And then
you
we
have a tendency to gabagool.
Gabagool.
So Pizza Expo, we sold out. There's no more sourdough, right? You're telling the people it's all out and it's out the door, right?
No.
Okay. So there's still product that people can. Okay. All right. So what are we doing here? What is the deal? Why are you bringing Jonathan in today? Can I ask?
So this is the beginning of a new generation of free Zoom classes. The first set of free Zoom classes was just called office hours that you and I did for a couple of years
True.
on Mondays. Sometimes it was every week, sometimes it was once a month, sometimes it was once every 2 months, depending on how busy I was or how
And that
busy
was
you
really
were.
to help all the people who are watching the classes, just to
Yeah,
continue in education. You got questions, you've taken our classes, come back, let's wax
yeah,
phyllo dough on them.
yeah.
So, and then we
Because
did, yeah.
hold on, because live Zoom classes you can ask a million questions live, but if you're doing on-demand classes or watching stuff on YouTube, there's no way to ask.
I mean,
So
you can type in, say, wait a second at this point, but it doesn't really work the same.
it doesn't work the same. So then we did for maybe a year and a half a bunch of Science of Sourdough classes where we just invited different guests from around the sourdough universe to. There were brewers, there was bakers, there were historians, there were scientists, there were all kinds of people.
We had health, professionals too.
We
Talking
had
about
we had, we
sourdough.
had lots of people,
Yeah.
all things sourdough. And now what we're doing is we're pre-selling our microbes,
Mhm.
and we're inviting people to come and learn. And so I wanted to start today's new series with one of my favorite pizza makers in the whole wide world, who we'll bring on shortly, Jonathan Goldsmith from Spacca, Napoli in Chicago.
I'm going to go ahead and drop that in the chat
Good,
here.
good. So I have a long and illustrious relationship with John. We're friends. I would consider him a client, but he probably would take offense at that.
Ooh.
Only because, when I say that I work for him, he said, "No, you didn't work for me, you worked with me." So he's very gracious. He started off, we'll get to his origin story because I think it's important, as a social worker and became one of the preeminent Neapolitan style pizza makers in the United States,
Yeah.
if not the world, according to me.
I'm interested to hear his take on Chicago traditional deep dish.
He might not have one, but you're welcome to ask. You're welcome to ask.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
Neapolitan is like
yeah.
so.
So anyway, just going back to why Jonathan is here, he has a lot of incredible wisdom, but one of the things that that I really am inspired by is he took a traditional approach and went to Italy and lived in Italy and studied with all the great masters, living masters of Neapolitan pizza, and I mean all of them. And then he went back to Chicago and took all of the recipes and all of the processes and all of the tradition and the love and camaraderie, and he made something that was his own. And you won't find it anywhere in Italy, but many Italians who visit his pizzeria in Chicago say that it reminds them of Italy. And if it's not as good as, it might even be better than, their neighborhood pizzeria. And that's
Methods.
because he studied with Starita. He studied with Roberto Caporuscio. His best friends are the VPN guys and the guys with whose great grandfathers started the flour companies that we all use. So
Yeah.
he's part of the culture. He's part of the tapestry, and he's going to be part of our class today.
A true titan. Well, I'm really excited to hear what he has to say, and
Good.
and I'm really excited to see how we can start applying some of this instant sourdough, these microbes, in a way that will add a ton of flavor. But if you're using the techniques and methods in a responsible way, um, really the cost won't be jumping too much. And you guys are going to be talking a little bit about that as well, correct?
We're going to talk about recipes a
Right.
little bit. We're going to talk about costs. We're going to talk about different pre-ferments.
What do you got right there? What are you
Oh,
flipping around?
no.
No?
Don't worry about that yet.
Okay,
We'll get
all
into
right.
that
It's
later.
just, you got
You know what I
recipes
got
and
there.
I don't know
I'm
what you
just
got.
making sure I'm ready.
Okay, well, should we do it? You want to bring Jonathan on and we can get this boat on the show?
Yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, without any further to-do, our friend Jonathan Goldsmith. Jonathan, would you please unmute? There you are. Welcome.
Buonasera. Buonasera.
Welcome, welcome.
Hello, John. It's so nice to see you.
Oh, it's lovely to see you, to chat with you.
Thank you.
Jason.
Thank you for joining us. I know that
Once
you are
again.
extremely busy, and at some point you're going to come back and teach a master class in what you do. But at least for tonight, I just wanted to chat with you briefly and get some of your input on I don't know how you would categorize Neapolitan pizza in the history or the tradition of, Western European flatbreads or American pizza, but you have your own take, and we wanna talk with you about your history with pizza and all of the. I see you're wearing a Don Antonio shirt, so we can get into some of the people that you
With
have
the,
trained
with the,
with.
with the papal crest. This was the original shirt for Don Antonio at the restaurant when they opened in New York. And
Wow,
this is a celebration, I would say, of Antonio and his being the one pizza maker to present to the Pope, John Paul, at the time of the Jubileo. So checked all the cities in the world, and they checked to go to Naples, and then Antonio was the one to present, and it was with the Fiori di Zucca, and that's the crest of the Pope.
that's beautiful. So we'll put some of these links into the chat for people who are listening live, and then for people who are listening on YouTube, we'll have some of these links to people like Antonio Starita and his beautiful pizzerias, both in Naples and in New York, right?
Correct.
Good.
Correct.
And so it's going to be hard to contain you, I know, John, because you're so full of stories and history. But my question to you to start with, where shall we begin?
Um, how about a quick story? I'm a social worker by trade. My wife is an artist by trade. We had the opportunity at one point to go to Italy via Paris for because Jenny had the alternate position for a 2 month stay, a 4 month stay in Paris. Wasn't going to happen. We thought, well, let's go to Italy instead. So we dropped everything for her to search for an atelier in Florence. And I went there as a house husband with our 20-month-old daughter, whom she was the passport to Goodwill, allowed for an incredible 4 year stay with our summers in Puglia, and returned home. And 20 years later, or whenever it was, from returning home in 91 to 2003, as we continued our travels to Italy during the summers, there was a picture in the paper from the Inspiration Cafe that serves the homeless. Jenny and I were doing a wonderful Mexican spread. A young Italian sees the picture, asks if a chef, and I said, no, I bake Sunday breakfast for the homeless. And out of the blue, he says, you should make a pizzeria, flour, water, salt, and yeast. You'll make a lot of money. And I was at that moment thinking this was my last hurrah traveling to Italy, see my friends in Puglia, who I was their bath boy, their banino, opening the umbrellas and putting out the Latini. They said, pizza's good. Go west, young man. From the Adriatic to the Mediterranean, ended up in Naples, and that's where I met Enzo Cocha, and that was in 2003. I studied with him in 2004 and then opened in 2006. How's that for a brief?
Very good. Excellent. Um, and so we didn't meet until years later. I think I probably met you when I first started going to the Pizza Expo in Las Vegas, right?
2010, maybe 2012, maybe.
Let's see. I would say if I had to, I start the first time I went with Lance Roberts, who introduced us. So if I had to say, probably closer to 2010, and then the next year I went with Matt from Tribute Pizza in San Diego, but he didn't have Tribute yet. And so I would try to road trip with somebody and share a hotel room. We weren't like big pizza guys like you. We didn't have like Antimo Caputo putting us up in expensive hotels and taking us out for dinner yet.
But we had a snore app when we shared a room.
When we did finally share a room, yes, I did record our snoring, and it was I think you won, but not by much.
Yeah,
You won.
that was
So
because of fresh baker's yeast.
we did finally share a room together. It was glorious. At least once. At least once. So let's see here. So the reason that I wanted to have you on as my first guest, in much the same way that I had my brewer friend John Porter from Smog City Brewing Company on the first version of the Science of Sourdough Zoom that we did, was because I feel like with John, brewers and bakers have a long and storied relationship, and I feel like Neapolitan pizza makers and American pizza makers also have a long and storied relationship, right? And so you, in many ways, at least for me, are the bridge between the Italians and the Americans, right? We both share a Jewish heritage, but we also share a love for almost all things Italian, right?
And sharing. We just love to share.
There you go. There we go. So I think I remember meeting you and at the Pizza Expo, and you shared a very beautiful pizza with not everybody, because you didn't smuggle in enough ingredients to make thousands of pizzas, but you probably made a dozen pizzas over the course of a few days, and it was really magical what you did. And then when I finally came and worked with you in 2017 at your pizzeria, I helped you to come up with the system that you built upon, and now you're doing this beautiful long fermentation with such a small amount of fresh yeast that nobody can believe it, right? Literally, my baking teachers from French Culinary Institute and my friends now who are in the baking and pizza world, when I tell them how much yeast approximately, because I don't really give away your recipe, that you use, they all say it's impossible. It's impossible, and you've proven everybody wrong. And not just proven them wrong, but you also make really delicious pizza, right? And
Some days, yeah.
some days. So, I thought it would be fun to start with you, because what I want to do over the course of the coming weeks and months is I want people to reimagine pizza and bread in a different way than they're currently imagining it. And the reason that I kind of frame it like that is that what I find as a pizza consultant is the first thing I have to do when I go into a pizzeria that's existing to help them fix their pizza or dough doctor their dough is I usually have to remove anywhere from 80 to 90% of the yeast that's in their current recipe. And I'm not exaggerating. Sometimes I only have to remove 50% or 75%, but people use so much yeast and so much refrigeration to make, modern pizza that something gets lost in translation. And once you strip away all the yeast and then you add some of the more artisan steps back into the process that maybe they never knew about or got left out along the journey from the time that the first pizza maker and the last pizza maker had a game of telephone, right? And so, long story short, I love what you do, and I love the way that you make pizza, and I just wanted to kind of chat with you and get this kind of story started. And then at some point, we're going to bring James on. In fact, maybe that's something that we can do in 5 minutes or so, because James is also going to do a little bit of a presentation, and maybe you can watch it with us and ask questions, just like people who are attending this Zoom call are welcome to do as well. All right? Good. So let's see. Justin, are you there?
Why, yes, of course. I'm right here.
Almost got you, right?
No. You didn't get me.
You weren't napping?
No, I don't. I don't sleep anymore.
All right,
Tell that to the bags under my eyes.
all right.
What can I do for you, gentlemen?
Well, you can ring that big blue bell, and maybe we can bring our
said
friend
5
James.
minutes. You said 5 minutes.
Well, 5 minutes from what?
You just said maybe in 5 minutes we can bring James on, but I'll do it right now. I'll do it right now.
Hold on. You're asking me what I need from you, and I'm telling you, get that blue bell on. I didn't say ring it yet. I just said get it. Uh-oh. I wonder if James is scrambling now.
I bet he is.
Don't ring it. Just like threaten to ring it.
I'm not.
All right, good. No, I mean, enough joking around. We got to get this party started.
And we got to get this boat on the show. We got, royalty here. My goodness.
We do.
Jono, I love that story, though. I really do.
He's not even warmed up yet. That wasn't
go
even
west,
a story.
make pizza. I love it. And you were just making bread for the people. I mean, that's what we talk about. It's literally sharing and breaking bread with people. So I love it. All right, you want me to bring him on? You want to just do it?
Let's bring him on. Let's talk with James a little bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, James Gaffney, Leaven Foods. Wait, where did Jono go?
He'll be back.
Oh,
Eccomi qua.
There he is. James, hello.
Hey, how's it going? Long time no see.
I know, long time no chit, man. It was before your adventure. Noel just gave me an earful about your truck. He really likes your truck. Do you have any
Yeah,
photos of that? Do you want to share any of those?
I don't have any photos. It was Cameron's truck, and it was packed about as much as you could pack. Noel was almost on my lap.
Well,
Yeah, made for an uncomfortable ride
well,
to
you got to like this Noel on your lap better than the old Noel on your lap. I'm not trying to.
It depends what you like.
I don't know. Nobody likes being squashed.
Some people like being squashed.
I guess you're
Don't
right.
kink shame.
I guess
No
you're
kink
right.
shaming.
I guess you're right. That's right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Birthday
And
boy.
hopefully you can get my bar
Birthday-
mitzvah picture
birthday
at the
boy.
end. Let's give
Yeah,
it.
oh yeah, I don't know. I'll have to find that one. Sorry. All right, but it sounds like you guys had a fantastic time. Just real quick before we get into it, can you give me a couple of your highlights too of the Pizza Expo? This is the second time you've been there, correct, Jimmy?
Yeah, second time. So yeah, just interacting with everybody at the expo, getting out great bread to everybody, working with the Napolis. They were awesome and super hospitable at their booth, which we kind of invaded. So all the thanks to them. It was amazing, and it was just great to serve amazing bread to all the people at the expo.
Good.
With
Now-
tomatoes. Everybody
Yeah.
was dipping, right? It was a dip fest.
but no
Yeah.
double dipping, hopefully, because that
No
could,
double
that-
dipping.
Okay,
Oh,
just
no,
making
no,
sure.
no,
Just
no,
making
no.
sure.
We had the double dip police.
Oh, you did. I'll bet. Somebody with the spotlight, making sure.
I mean,
Good. These days, there's no room for error.
the
in
biggest
double dip.
muscles and the tightest T-shirt you've ever seen.
That should have been me.
It should have been you.
Yeah, because I'm really busting out these days.
You are really busting out.
Yeah, of my belly. Well, that's really exciting. So, highlights for you. I know that your stuff. Was there anything notable that you love that wasn't in your booth? Just real quick, James.
I didn't really see anything other than our booth. I was there, slicing bread for the people. That's just me, man of the people.
Bread for the masses.
Yeah.
Bread for the masses.
We
So,
were working 16 hours a day, and then,
Yeah.
you know how it is.
So-
Jonathan, he knows the grind. He's been in the restaurant business for a long time. 16 hours days are nothing.
right. So
I think you might be muted, John. Like we couldn't hear you.
That's part-time.
That's part time, exactly. So James did a great job, and I put him through the paces in San Diego, and we tested every possible scenario, everything that could have gone wrong. We tried to make it go wrong in San Diego, and accounted for it. And we had a plan A, a plan B, a plan C. If an oven went down, if a mixer went down, anything that could have gone wrong, we had a plan B or a plan C. And really nothing went wrong, right, James?
Yeah, it was amazing bonding experience with Noel. 2 straight weeks of long hours, and it was great.
My giant burn is almost healed.
put some aloe on that.
I've been. I haven't burned myself in years, but at 5:30 every morning we were baking, and some of the ovens were pretty high.
Yeah.
High and hot. So it was great. So thank you for that, James.
Yeah.
So how about this, James? I want to. I know that you prepared a little something to show us, and so I'd like to get that rolling. But let's not go too fast, because I want to make sure that if people have questions, that they can ask questions in the chat. Justin, if you wouldn't mind running the chat while James is there, and if you see any great questions, you can stop us, and we'll try to answer them as we go.
Absolutely.
And then we'll finish up once we're done with James. We'll finish up with Jonathan, and then invite people back to the coming Zooms the next 2 Mondays, I believe.
I thought you were going to run us through some things.
I mean, we have a lot on the agenda, so
Okay. See where we get to. Okay, Jimmy, you want to do some screen sharing?
Yep, let's get it.
All right, let's bang a gong, so to speak. Banging a gong.
Here we go. All right, so for those of you that have attended the last few Zooms, we've talked a lot about straight doughs. So using our instant sourdough directly into flour and water to make really good bread. The problem with this somewhat is, the cost of our product's high. It's a premium product right now, and we know that's not going to work for everybody. But we want everybody to be able to experience it. So there's a few other ways in which we can do that, and that's really through pre-ferments. So today we're going to kind of introduce what we're calling a sourdough Poolish, and then making a levain with the instant sourdough. Now, it kind of eliminates the instant part, but I think the benefit really is that it will lower the price of the product, and you can develop some really great flavors and get super creative, just like you would with baker's yeast, but even amped up even more. So I think that's really exciting, and we're going to start kind of building out our resources surrounding pre-ferments. So I think it's an exciting thing for Noel and Cameron and I to kind of really delve deeper into these pre-ferments. So
Before you go on,
yep.
I had a quick little addition that I wanted to make. So,
Yeah.
just for people who have maybe not been with us since the beginning, over the last almost 2 years, one of the things that we did in order to test the product as we were developing it is we created batches, small batches, and we gave very, very, very small batches to some of my best pizza friends, right? Most of them were in California. So, for instance, Chris Bianco from Pizzeria Bianco, my friend Joey from Folks, Dan from Pizzana, people like that we trusted, and we were soliciting feedback, and some of the feedback was very positive, and some of it was less positive. But here's the thing about less positive feedback: that's the stuff you really learn from. Right. And so one of the things that I noticed was that regardless of the instructions that we gave people, they did it the way they wanted to do it. And so if they were used to making a Poolish or a biga or a Pâte Fermentée or a levain or a straight dough, that's pretty much what they did anyway, regardless. And so it was actually really cool because we learned way before we intended to some of the benefits, right? And also some of the points that we probably had to look more closely at, because you can give a person a great pizza, but if they're going to stick it in a microwave for 5 minutes and then tell you that your pizza sucks, well, what are you going to do? Right? Terrible analogy, but the point is that we've stress tested all of this stuff, and now that we're going to market, we're going to go back and we're going to give people a lot of different potential uses for our products, so that if you want to make a straight dough, make a straight dough. If you want to make a levain like Dan from Razza did, do that. If you want to make a Poolish like our friends from Bub and Grandma did, make a Poolish. I have some Italian friends that made a biga. I didn't tell them to make a biga; they just made a biga, right? And so these are all great things that happen spontaneously. And so now, over the course of the next few weeks, we're all going back and stress testing all of these different preparations, right? And so hopefully in the future, depending on who buys the product and whether they're home bakers or professionals, we will have the perfect process and recipe to get them started. Right? And hopefully great things will happen. So I just wanted to add that in because I think it's really important for people who haven't been with us since the beginning.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so then we started to look at the pricing a little bit more, which is one of the impetuses. Not only was to kind of like help people take the instant sourdough and move it straight into their existing process, but also maybe people that aren't using pre-ferments, make the product more approachable from a cost standpoint. So for those of you that have seen the previous Zooms, I won't go too far in depth, but in anything with your flour, sauce, cheese, any of these ingredients that you use to make your pizza, there's a difference between standard ingredients and premium ingredients. And we see our instant sourdough as a premium ingredient. So, there's obviously a premium associated with that, but we don't want that to be a barrier to entry from people trying it. So Noel and I got together and kind of like brainstormed what like really nice recipes have low inclusion rates, create great flavor, great dough, and will not like break your bank effectively with using our instant sourdough. So we looked across three main recipes. That was Neapolitan straight dough with 0.04% instant dry yeast equivalent, a New York style with a high inclusion of Poolish, and then Neapolitan with a low inclusion of levain. And as you can see, it's really cheap to make these doughs with instant yeast. Um, and it's significantly more expensive with our product, but it's not that expensive on a per dough basis. And in addition, you're going to get so much flavor. I think you're going to find that the small amount of increased price is going to be well worth it. So, I think maybe Noel has a little bit more to say about some of these doughs and maybe how the product can be creatively used in low inclusion rates.
Of course I do. Thank you for that
Yeah.
introduction. So, yeah, so the way I think about this is John, of all the people I've ever worked with, probably has the lowest inclusion rate. And if we did the math, John, I don't know what you spend for a pound of fresh yeast, but I have a feeling you might not even go through the whole pound considering how little you use. So you might be the only customer we ever have that actually saves money with our product because your fresh yeast goes bad after 5 or 6 days, right? But that's just a very extreme example. And
Yeah,
so,
sorry.
no, go ahead. Go.
I always tell people to hold, you have 2 blocks of yeast or 3 blocks of yeast because as soon as it starts to dry out, you pitch it. And
Yeah.
the nickel and dime on $2 or $4 for the block of yeast, and to have 100, have one round of dough blow because of the yeast does not make sense.
No. So, when you talk about, nickels and dimes and pennies, a lot of people are penny wise and dollar foolish in the pizza game, and that's why there's so much terrible pizza out there. That's one of the main reasons. But for people like you, John, who is penny wise and also dollar wise, you make an incredible product. So
Someday.
you know better than anybody else. I mean, you some of the I mean, I've seen some of the fresh burrata that you bring in from where Puglia,
Mhm.
and you're giving it away and you're selling it at an extreme price, but you're breaking even, right? Just because you love your customers so much, you can't charge them $50 for a plate of burrata, right? An appetizer plate. You
No,
charge them, right?
the the model is more slow food. Unfortunately, you have the middle person, but you definitely need to honor the producer, the artisan
Yeah,
who's making the product.
yeah,
And you also, at the end of the day, have to honor the customers because they have other expenses besides pizza. And so with our models, use the best product we can and sell, and we can't afford to sell at entry level product price, but we can do the best premier product and sell it at the second level of pricing. And the people who are doing 2 extra large pizzas for $7, they're not going to be our customers. But diners who are the ogni santi, the people who know things, have an appreciation for they're actually getting a good deal because the product is up there in quality, but at a fair price. And
there you
that we
go.
make the money in quote volume versus Big Dave. We don't measure our cheese per se. And he said, do volume then. Maybe you have less earnings, but if you're doing something good, people come. So there's a value in using that supreme product.
Absolutely. So,
Yeast.
sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to kind of get through the rest of the slide and then I'll pass it back to James. So we're
Right.
going to start with Neapolitan, which is the lowest inclusion rate. And then we might move into something that people use the word Neapolitan, right? And maybe it's a newer version of a Neapolitan. Maybe it's a bridge between a New York and a Neapolitan. But generally speaking, it might have a higher inclusion rate than the Neapolitan. It might be refrigerated for a brief period, or it might not. But it's a really wonderful product, and I have a lot of classes with Italians and Americans who do something like that. And I also have a lot of friends like Daniele from Pizzana here in Los Angeles. I would call his Neapolitan because it's actually crispy. There's not very much tip sag like you would find in a beautiful traditional VPN pizzeria in Naples. He does some really beautiful stuff, and he uses his grandmother's levain, but he doesn't call it a levain. He calls it something. Is it crescito? Is that what they call it in Italy?
Uh-huh.
But again, a very low inclusion rate, and super old fashioned. I mean, he and his brother, for the first 2 years, I think they mixed every batch by hand, and they were doing sometimes 1,000 pizzas a day. You can imagine the labor of love that went into that. Let's see. If I look at another one that could be considered almost neo-Neapolitan, but done in a deck oven, my friend Joey from Folks. He goes down to as little as maybe 3.5% levain in the summer, and maybe in the winter he goes up to about a 7.5%. But that's not very much, and you could certainly make a levain with our microbes for pennies, not dollars. So the inclusion rate is low, and the flavor is really incredible. And he just does a room temperature rise. I think he's by the beach in Costa Mesa, California, and he makes his dough, every afternoon before service and leaves it out when he closes at night in the dining room. No refrigeration at all. Gets there in the morning, and the dough is bubbling over and beautiful, and he balls it all up and lets it do its second rise at whatever temperature the pizzeria is at, and then he opens it 3 or 4 and serves and sells out 6 or 7 days a week. It's really incredible what he does. And then I think the New York style that I actually made one the other night for some friends was modeled on the incredible pizza that's being done in Philadelphia, South Philly, by a guy named Danny. He has a pizzeria called Angelo's South Philly. So I was lucky enough to do a class with him, and I know his recipe. So I'm going to be sharing some of the tips, tricks, techniques, recipes that I learned from all of these people, and try to introduce our product in terms of the best pizza that I already know, and build a library of recipes and techniques that people can either start with or refer to in informing the decisions they make about how they're going to make their best pizza. Make sense? All right, back to you, James.
Yeah, just so before we move on, Michael had a really good question, and it was have we and can we use the instant sourdough as a levain? And yes, you certainly can. The community stays stable, and we've really used it only in short time periods for the most part. And Noel probably has more experience with it than myself. But what Noel will do is essentially take the product, uh, make the levain by putting a little bit of it into flour and water, and then feeding it once or twice, and then
Or 3 times a day.
or 3 times, and really getting it moving, and then use it, and it seems to work great that way. The only downfall, right, is that it's not instant in that case, but it does provide a cheap and really reliable method that produces a really great tasting product. So if you want to say anything else about that, Noel, about your experience.
Well, unfortunately, I have a lot of experience using this product with a levain, because when we were first making our bathtub gin version of these different strains of wild yeast and sourdough, you guys would ship me like 20 grams, 40 grams, 60 grams. I mean, I couldn't use it as a straight dough, and so I had to make levains with it, and the results were incredible. I'll just relay one story, and then I'll hand it back over to you. One of the scariest moments in my pizza life, and there have been many, was sitting down with Chris Bianco at his pizzeria here in Los Angeles, and it was me and him on the patio at a table. I brought 2 loaves of bread, a cutting board, and a serrated knife. And I put it down for him. I said, slice it open and tell me what you think. If it's good news, I'll take it. If it's bad news, let me know. And he went crazy. And it was something that I made for him using a levain, because I didn't have enough microbes to make, an instant sourdough. And so it wasn't a long rise. I probably made the dough at 6 or 7 or 8 o'clock the night before, and no refrigeration. I'm lucky enough to live in Santa Monica, so at nighttime it's 55, 60, 65 degrees. So whatever temperature it was, it was. I woke up in the morning. I might have even woken up in the middle of the night just to check it. It was good. I balled it. I gave it its second rise. I baked it off in my home oven, and I brought 2 loaves to Chris, and the rest is history. He's been a fan, and he took some of the microbes and made some bread with it. Yeah, so that was a potentially very scary moment, because I was not in control. And anytime you're fermenting your dough on the patio outside while you sleep, anything could happen. Squirrels could attack it, right? Or the sun could come out prematurely and overheat your dough. So anyway, I've had a lot of experience making levains, Poolishes, bigas, Pâte fermentées, and straight doughs with these microbes.
And just to elaborate, we'll be moving forward with better outlining how to use it and supplying some recipes as well. So everybody will have a good starting guideline or a baseline, at least for how to use it in those types of applications.
Correct.
Yeah. Cool. So moving on, so I guess that kind of segues into our final slide here, which is, we're going to look to build out our knowledge base and kind of help everybody understand best how to use instant sourdough and pre-ferments. And so we're going to start with what we're calling a sourdough Poolish, although that's just a working title, and maybe we'll revise it with time. But it's worth talking about kind of like how we're going to do this. So there's 3 major things at play with these pre-ferments. It's our classic time and temperature, as well as the inclusion rate of whatever microbes you're using, whether that be baker's yeast or instant sourdough or whatever that might be. So, what we aim to do is kind of figure out a way in which you can say, all right, I have the capability of making a pre-ferment at 72 degrees, and I want to do that in 24 hours. So we'll have a matrix, hopefully, that you can just go, here's my time, here's my temperature, and it will tell you the inclusion rate. And so when we're looking at how we're going to do this, there's the traditional ways that kind of many people observe pre-ferments, and that's either visually a lot of the time. So how much has it risen? Has it doubled? Has it tripled? What does the surface activity look like? Are there big bubbles? Are there small bubbles? How frequently are they popping? Is it rising still? Is it falling? But we hope to provide some kind of more granular data, I guess, surrounding this. And so I think we're going to look at probably figuring out, what the peak, fermentation time is, when the best time to use your pre-ferments by using pH as a proxy, or overall gas production, or sugars, remaining sugars that are left in the pre-ferment, and then really be able to establish these solid baselines and supply everybody with like this matrix where it will be just as simple as, all right, here's my time, here's my temperature. All right, this is how many microbes I need to add to my pre-ferment. And we'll be also providing recipes as well. So I think, as we get more experience working with this, we'll be able to build out some really nice resources for everybody to use and make the experiences painless and hopefully pleasurable, with the really great flavor from this product. So
beautiful. Love it. So my hopes and dreams are a little bit different than James's. He wants hard data. He wants beautiful graphs, pie charts, all kinds of cool stuff, which is very useful. But what I want to try to do is, talk to individual pizza makers and help them to better understand how to make a super flavorful and something that maybe James hasn't brought up yet, consistent product. Whether you're a home baker making 6 pizzas for your family on a Sunday night like I did the other night for my birthday, or you're a busy pizzeria like my friends at Flour and Water in San Francisco that might do 800 or 1,000 pizzas on a busy night, right? And whether you're using a Poolish or a biga or a straight dough or a levain, we want to have the right recipe for you. And so, lots of people say, "Hey, I need to ferment my dough at 40 degrees." Great. We just did that at the Pizza Expo, and we had a sourdough that we mixed on Sunday that we didn't serve until Thursday, and it wasn't too sour, was it, James?
It was not. It was excellent.
It was really
Amazing.
good.
Yeah.
But also I did a less than 24-hour dough yesterday with a super low inclusion rate, and I purposely hot boxed it. And by that I mean the pH wasn't as low as I wanted it to go, and so I put it in my old Mercedes 300 turbo diesel in the sun and closed all the windows. I turned it into a German tank, and I jacked up the temperature of the dough from about 65 to about 80 pretty fast. And then once it started to get active, then I opened all the windows and brought it back into the shade, and it was beautiful. And I actually got it down to about 3.8, 3.9, which is very low for one of those recipes. But I really like to push the limits of the dough because I want everything to go wrong for me, so that if anything goes wrong for any of our customers, I usually will have 3 or 4 answers for what could have gone wrong because I've already made those mistakes on purpose, right? Or accidentally. Excellent. All right. Anything else, James?
I think that's it.
All right, good. So that leaves me and you, John. How about we chat a little bit?
Sounds good.
Let's stop sharing the screen.
Yep.
There we go. There we go. Interesting. Great. I'm excited. Let's do this.
Let's do this. So, John, thank you for coming on. Justin, if you'll keep an eye on the chat and jump in if we're going too fast or if anybody has any awesome questions. All right.
I will do it. I am standing by.
All right, good. So, John, let me just say a few words, and then I'll turn the floor over to you. So, one of the things that I'm excited to work with you on is obviously your Neapolitan pizza, right? I also know that I've come to Chicago and I've shared with you my high hydration dough, about 85%, and you're doing a 3-day cold ferment with fresh yeast, I believe is what you're using.
Right.
And so we've been talking about doing something like that with sourdough. And so I hope to come to Chicago and work with you that way. Also, we have these beautiful wild yeast microbes that I really like, and I think depending on your vision for your bread and your vision for your pizza and even your vision for your bagels, right? You and John Arena both want me to help you with your bagels. I'm super excited to do that as well. There's a lot of great sourdough bagels out there right now, but also like what we can do with our wild yeast and bagels is phenomenal. John Arena has a absolute fixation with micro blisters, right? Whether it's at his pizzeria or at Truly, right? The micro blisters they're getting on that dough are just like out of this world. So when John saw some of the micro blisters we were getting on our bread last week, and some of the stuff we were posting on Instagram the week before when I was working with James, he was like, "We've got to come back out to Vegas and work with me on our bagels." So I'm super excited to work with you on all of these projects, John, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Tell me what you're excited about.
Well, I guess what I'm excited about is just thinking that maybe I have the opportunity now to work with, whether I refer to your product as an instant culture, to actually introduce that to the pizza making or to our bread making. Actually at Starita in Naples, maybe we opened 2006, so maybe it was soon after when I really was welcomed into the Caputo family. And I was at Starita and Marte Day with Antimo Caputo, Roberto Caporuscio, Mark Din, another pizza maker, wonderful in America, Sergio Mecu, and I forget who else. And I put forth the question, I really want to start working with a mother. And this was maybe 2008, and I concur with what I heard then. And they said, no, 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 ci sono due strade. There are two roads, and there's one for the pizza maker and there's one for the bread maker. And I think if you're focusing just on bread and having a culture, it becomes part of your daily rhythm. For a pizzeria, the cultures, it's hard, or definitely hard for me to focus on maintaining a mother. Which was always named Janice after my mother, and I'd call one of my colleagues and I said, I killed her. I put her to rest because just the idea of practicing with precision, feeding a culture 3 times a day, and really not having the sense of whether the culture was guasto or not. It's a difficult process. So I was comfortable with thinking, well, I'm doing Neapolitan pizza. I'm going to follow the classic direct method initially, whether it was 8 hours, now or 24 to 30, but was very appreciative that let me just focus on what I know I could do and handle. So the idea now, and I guess I feel comfortable with what I've done over these years with what I consider truly classic Neapolitan in the likes of Starita or in the likes of Enzo Cocha or Attilio, the two most classic, I think, in Naples. Um, I'm very comfortable right now that I can segue away from my classic Neapolitan, whether I was playing with John's Americana, and I do those as giveaways, or sometimes I'll do that as a special. But to think that I can tweak what we're doing right now and maybe even bring out more of the flavor, which I think I that's evolved with our going from an 8 hour mix once a day or twice a day to our 24, 30 hour rises, where we have a wonderful profile on the good days that to introduce this product for the pizza, and whether I choose not to use it for the pizza, that I could even use that for just bread making, because I do appreciate being in Puglia over all the years. What a wonderful bread that stays moist and fresh for 7 days, which is a classic Pugliese, versus our bread, which is quite wonderful, but it's a 24-hour bread. It's our old dough that will sit for 1, 2, or 3 days in the fridge, and then we bake. So um, I'm open to now, 20 years later, just to see what flavors that I can bring. And I appreciate that you have the sourdough on the one side, and then you have the classic, and so that's what I'm excited about with it.
That's beautiful. Also, I'll introduce another possibility into the mix. So when James and I were working together in San Diego a few weeks ago, I came up with a harebrained scheme, and I come up with a lot of harebrained schemes. James and Cameron can vouch for that. And I said, hey, what if we combine both? What if we do our 85% hydration sourdough, or we use a certain amount of sourdough and a certain amount of wild yeast? So we tried it, and guess what? It was incredible. And that's what we ended up serving at the Pizza Expo. And I've also done, higher inclusion rates, the equivalent of 40 or 50% levain. And what I love about it is that because the microbes are easier to control than whatever is in your sourdough or my sourdough, I have a better idea of what the window is, and I can keep the quality within an acceptable range. Whereas even some of my favorite bakers in the world, right, Dan at Rodso or the Prager brothers down in San Diego, they all struggle with sourdough, right? I mean, nobody who makes sourdough bread or pizza has 100% batting average, right, or 1,000 batting average, right? There's
But
always going to be good and bad days. Yeast too, right?
well, I was thinking of Gregorio Fierro a few years back at Pizza University. He presented me with a culture from Venice from 75 years ago. Well, actually, then the culture became mine of one day because I take it back to my environment, what I do. And one of my closest colleagues of Molino Colombo, Eduardo Ore, who I met through Enzo Cocha, worked for Enzo, came to Chicago. He was blown away with all the product we had. And I was very excited to present to him my Janus and this Venetian culture that I had. And he comes to the pizzeria because he was using some of our product to prepare for the show. And I showed him the culture and he smelled it. And the first thing he said, "Che schif," which means how disgusting. That's the word schif in Italian. And he was with me for 40 days. And we literally 3 times a day, at precise moments of the day, fed this culture. And it took me 38 days him to be satisfied. Very easy to make a sour culture, but to temper it, I guess that's the balance, but getting it to more più dolce. And it took 38 days for his reworking that mother till we baked one bread together and he left. And then after 10 days, I think I killed it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the wonderful things about the culture that we're introducing, the all-purpose, is that it's not intended to be super sour. That's going to be our San Francisco sourdough. And
Yeah.
so when I go to Dan, I keep bringing up the same people. When I go to Dan's place, Razza in Jersey City, when I go to uh, Daniele's Pizzana here in Los Angeles, when I go to Joey's Pizzeria in Costa Mesa, all using sourdoughs or crescitos or levains. In general, there's not a sour flavor. It's just an incredibly enhanced uh, pizza crust flavor, like the best breads and the best pizzas in the world. If it's too sour, you mess something up. The point of sourdough, especially in a modern, you know, uh, pizza environment, is to just coax as much flavor from the grains as you possibly can. And
Which
you're doing it with fresh yeast.
correct, but I still feel like I'm not an Italian with the sixth sense, whether it's for digestion. But I truly, after 22 years of doing this, I still depend on the Italians and my other bread makers. Like John was just very pleased with your 3-day cold ferment to actually have a sense whether it was actually good or not. So
Yeah,
it's the
yeah.
working with the culture is a hard process. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this would work to get
Well,
some of the nuances made that I don't even know are out there.
one of the things that I'm hoping for, I'll have to get all your dates because I know you're going to be doing a lot of traveling to Italy and hopefully San Diego, San Francisco, LA, but hopefully we'll be able to work together and I'll we'll be able to give you some microbes to take to Europe with you. And so in Italy, you can start different starters for different people using our microbes and let them play with these things, right?
Mhm.
Maybe somebody wants a sourdough and somebody else wants the wild yeast, or you can do a combo. But
Mhm.
once I teach you how to feed it and start it, you just need a couple grams, or in my case, a third of a gram. You know,
Mhm.
that's what I made my batch with on Saturday for my friend John Porter, just
Mhm.
for like home baking in his wolf range oven. It was really beautiful.
We'll bring it to Franco Pepe.
Bring it. Oh my God! Now you're scaring me again. Bring it to Franco Pepe. Absolutely. I mean, we're not looking for if Franco Pepe hates it. That's there's nothing wrong with that,
Looks
right?
great. I
Yeah.
actually thought for all the years that he was working with a culture. Maybe he is now. I have no idea. I don't even know if he lets me into the dough room. He let me into the dough room. But
Supposedly he's working with a
in the
culture.
early years, well, there was a point where, I just had to be careful. But, when I first met him and started working with him in his pizzeria, he was basically using pasta Importo. He's just using two dough balls from the previous day and mixing in the water. And that was really the flavor process I think that he was generating. It wasn't with a culture because he also used a little bit of fresh yeast just to as a security to get things going. So it seems like your product is almost going to be a combination of the two to put that together.
Well,
For
here's
that
the
flavor
thing.
profile.
Here's the beautiful thing. We think we know what our product is going to be used for, but what we're looking forward to is what I always call happy accidents, right? Where we tell somebody one thing and they either reinterpret or misinterpret. Going back to Chad Robertson's book, which I talk about a lot in my classes, one of the things that I love about that cookbook is he gave a bunch of his friends and coworkers levain, right, to work with, and he gave them instructions, and some of them followed the instructions, and some of them didn't. And the wonderful thing about sourdough is that if you feed it regularly, it will adapt, right? Even if the feedings aren't traditional, even if the temperatures aren't traditional, even if the flours are not traditional, wild yeast and bacteria are really incredible. And I can't speak to the science of it because I'm not a scientist, but as somebody who's been working with sourdough for over 15 years, and I remember when I worked at Bestia, we did a sourdough pizza there, and I think I started working there as a consultant. It was my second consulting job ever in 2012, and Ori didn't take a day off for the first year, not really. I mean, they were closed on Mondays, and I used to come in and make my high hydration dough on their spiral mixer there. And he would come in and season the pans and do all the stuff that chefs do when they're have a day off. But I remember the first year that they actually closed for a week, he gave me his starter to babysit, right? And I was afraid. I was afraid that I was going to ruin Bestia's starter, and of course I didn't. I handed it back to them healthier than it ever was before. But it's so scary when you're dealing with a levain or a biga or any of these these very finicky pre-ferments. That one of the things I love about this product is that we take a lot of the scariness out, because if you ever kill your starter, give me 3 hours and I'll have a brand new starter for you, right?
Actually, one thing, sorry to interrupt, just a quick comment, was that what I'm curious about in terms of not our Neapolitan style, our Neapolitan pizza, is that when I've worked with the starter, with the indirect method, with the whether it's a biga or a Poolish, but maybe more with the Poolish, I find the texture has radically changes, that it almost becomes almost a soft bread in a way, without having that initial crunch, that initial resistance, and a wonderful chew. So that's another thing, is that I don't want a bread-like quality, though it is a wonderful bread-like quality. I mean, it is a bread. That's why that
Yeah,
often the
yeah.
portfolio go to the bread first, or if I'm judging, I'm always just going to the dough first, the bread first. But I really want to see if I can get a flavor component without having a baker's pizza, which is Franco's. And so his father and his father was a baker.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what's exciting for me, like I remember when I came and worked with you in Chicago in 2017, and we were trying to set up that dough room at 64 degrees. I know that you had very specific set of ideas for what you wanted to have happen. And so I think we got the beginning of that established for you, but I was always looking to push the limits, and I wanted to see that your dough, and every day I would do a mix and another mix and another mix and another mix, and I kept on having the amount of yeast and having the amount of yeast, so that when we finally got down to it, I mean, you might only use 4 grams on a giant batch, but I was using like a tenth of a gram on a batch and letting it go for 5 days. And so I remember on the last day that I was there, we had lunch before I went to the airport, and your guys made me the 5-day dough that had so little yeast in it. It didn't ever rise until it finally hit the oven floor, right? And then it was absolutely beautiful. You thought it was too bready, and I wanted to cry because I thought it was so amazing.
Too bready, but I also think what I do like that we've pushed it, with Enzo, our initial mix was, whether you're talking about kilos of water, it was like 1 kilo of water, 1.7 kilo of flour, 50 grams of salt, and 2.5 grams of yeast.
Yeah.
So a 25 kilo bag was 37.5 grams of yeast, and that was for an 8-hour rise. And now we're doing even a larger batch for an extra 5 kilo, which would be 50 grams of yeast, and we're actually using 6 grams. So we're like 1/10 of what we were doing before.
I
And
love that.
anytime we do the greater yeast as quote an emergency dough for 8 hours later, they all complain that they notice that whether the flavor profile, but the extensibility, there's too much memory, it's so much harder to work with. So the other piece with that, besides moving away from the 8 hour, is that when you have the ability to work with time and temperature and an enhanced culture such as this product, even get it even finer, that it's actually less work, because it's a real drag for whether it's the first 2 years trying to figure it out. And I was getting up at 4:30 to be at the restaurant at 5 to make a dough ready for noon, that I could have done it from my lawn chair the day before. And I can decide if it's ready in 15 hours, ready in 24 hours. And then with the staging that we can do and the managing with the different environments, better that you wait a little bit of time before blowing the dough. And if you look early in the morning, then you have the opportunities to manage your dough in different environments if you need to.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what you're saying, we could go on and on. We only have a few more minutes together, and I do want to answer some of the questions in the chat. But I do
Sorry.
remember when I first came to visit you and work with you, and watching all the different batches of dough get wheeled around from the from the dough room to the staging room to the walk-in to the upstairs. It was insane. And you had all of these doughs, you and your coworkers, you know. And I think you used a phrase when we were talking earlier. You asked me to ask you, what about the kibbutz, right? And I remember when I worked at Bestia, one of the rules that we had was when we were making the daily tomato sauce, right, which we made every morning, and it never got saved for the next day. It was just staff meal, fresh tomato sauce every day at Bestia. Whenever you walked by, no matter what station you were on, you would stir it. Right, and that reminds me of the story you were telling, and I wish you would end with your little kibbutz story, and then we can
Well,
hopefully talk further
very,
in the future.
very quickly, I think my focus is the impastatore. It's all dough. The guys who've been doing the pizza at the bank, I would wreak havoc if I went up to the pizza bank. I can do it on TV. I can do it special presentations on Strada della Mozzarella. But if you put me there on a Friday night, within 10 minutes, they'd be saying, get out of here, or I'd be running out the door first because I messed up the rhythm. So in the beginning with my model, and I had the time and the pleasure to always be monitoring the dough to see when it's really ready, when it's showtime, and how to stage it or how to change environments. I'd hear from my colleagues, whether it's Fred Mortanti or the guys in Italy, this is not a viable model. But for so many years where I'm there at the 18 or 20 hours a day, and it's the first thing that I'm doing and doing it all day is controlling the dough. The key thing, as I was spending less time at the pizzeria and needing but still wanting that quality of management, it's gotten better, but I still sometimes struggle with it. Is this model that you treat the pagnotte, the dough balls, as if they're children of a kibbutz. The children are in a communal setting. They actually sleep together, and the various parents are always there, either doing meals with their children or helping whatever way. So everybody is responsible. So it's really important, even especially when I'm there, I'm afraid that they think, oh, I'm here, I don't have to check the dough. But I really need whether it's the principal at the pizza bank in the morning, principal in the afternoon, the guy's leaving in the morning to check it at 2, guy coming in at 3, to really see where the dough should be, whether it should be moved out of the wine room, if some of it was blowing, to go back into the cooler environment, whether there's some we actually will put in the fridge to use the next day, like Don Michele. But it's really a matter that whether it's 3 or 4 people who are doing the pizza also have to be focusing on where the dough is. And like Melba Tolliver, ABC News in the 70s, the big line at 10 p.m. was, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are? It's 3 o'clock. Do you know how your pagnotte are? It's the same principle. Sorry. I lost you.
Don't apologize. That was lovely. I wish we had more time.
Okay.
We will definitely make more time in the future. So I'm just making some notes. I need to know when you're going to be in San Francisco, San Diego, LA. Maybe I come to Chicago. And no matter what, I send you to Italy. I send you to Italy with microbes. All right. So I need to get all your dates, and so we can
July
coordinate
13th,
with James.
Italy. Be there, be square. But I want to, as soon as you can send me some of the product with some clear instructions, I'm ready.
Good.
I'm really ready.
Good. I can't wait. Thank you, John. Do we have any questions from the chat there, Justin? Would you mind reading them?
Yeah, we had a couple good questions. Some people were asking about Joey's method to the madness, and I directed them to our sourdough class that we had a chance to do with Joey. We did have a couple questions. Jimmy, you really answered these questions. Matthew was saying, do you have any plans to do some home baker pizza mixer data collection, citizen science kind of data collection? And James, you said, good question. Yeah.
Yeah. So we hope to kind of have this community surrounding the product, and we really want to get people's experiences out there, because this is such a, bread making and pizza making in general is such a creative process, and people are going to do stuff with the product that we don't even think of, and that's the beauty of it. And so we've talked about having some type of forum or something. So that's a work in progress where we'll at least be able to collect some of these cool things that people are doing with the product and provide a place for them to share it with the world. Um, but in terms of like strict data collection, we don't have any plans. But if people are interested, feel free to, uh, we want to hear that you're interested in what you're interested in. So feel free to email the info email account and just say, hey, it'd be really cool if you guys did this. We're really interested in what this aspect of the product or this, and maybe you guys could collect some data on it.
And there is a dough calculator, correct, on the Leaven Foods, the website.
Correct. And that's just, a guideline for conversions between instant dry, active dry yeast, and when the product's launched, we'll also have a levain option. So if you're currently using those products, it will be a strict calculation for straight doughs. But, like we said in this webinar, we're going to be working on pre-ferments. So that eventually will be built into the calculator as well. And, times and temperatures and everything that goes into the pizza equation, as you say, Justin.
Yeah. I mean, that, it's like, Chris says, you burn, you learn. And this is a new product that, we haven't had a chance to work with a bunch. So this will be we're all going into this together, and we're going to, thank goodness we have some fantastic stewards that know the techniques and the methods. It's just going to be, trying to apply some of those techniques and methods to basically some new tools that we have at our disposal. So thank you so much, Matt. And then Mike asked about placing an order. He placed an order today for some packets. It shows April 30th delivery date. Are the full bags shipping now? And Jimmy, you were saying?
Yeah. So we can just give everybody an update on that. So Cameron and I were working in LA to get the product blended and packaged today. So we'll continue to work through that. And then we'll have the product ready to ship before the 30th for sure. And all sizes will ship at the same time. So I would imagine that shipments will start in the next week or two. And we hope to have them fulfilled pretty quick. And, if you have questions about when it's going to be shipped, just again, shoot us an email at the info account.
Great.
Justin, before you go on, I just want to answer that one as well. So one of the things that I was talking about, I think actually, I don't know if it was Cameron or James who came up with the idea, is that, the dough calculator is an awesome tool, but like any tool, there needs to be some craft involved, right? And so there are a lot of people out there with a lot of different recipes and a lot of different processes. And so what we're hoping to do with the initial group of people who buy, a bag or 2 bags or 3 bags, is we want to try to meet with you, like over Zoom, for example, or if that's not possible, then just start an email conversation. Because the thing is that we want everybody to have a very positive experience. And so any type of help that we can provide for you in advance of your first mix and your first bake, it would be our honor and our pleasure. This is a brand new product. And so the conversation that we're doing over this live Zoom and that people will be watching on YouTube, we need to kind of pay it forward, because the people who are buying this product now are kind of like our angel investors, because we don't really have the investment money to offer this product at a fair market price, right? And so if we were like any other food tech startup, somebody would give us $2-3 million or more, and we would be able to offer giant batches at a much cheaper price. But we can't do that because we're doing it the old-fashioned way. We're bootstrapping it. And so really, to say thank you for your investment, which really is what it is, of trust, of money, of time, right? We want to pay it forward and give as much help as we can to you so that your experience is positive, and also we get that feedback from you so that we can continue to advise people and make our product work in as many situations as possible.
Yeah, we want to figure it out too. I mean, that's the reality of the situation, and we need more people to use the product. And like Jonathan was saying, what's the temperature here? Are we moving dough? They're all the different variables in the pizza equation, like Jimmy was saying, that we're going to be figuring out together, and it's going to be friggin' delicious. As far as if word from the floor of the Pizza Expo is true, it's going to be a delicious adventure that we're going on. So Josh had a question about workflow, and Jimmy, you were able to help with that one a little bit. Josh said, "Oop, hey, yeah, sorry."
Hold on a sec. What question was that?
Josh was just saying workflow, but he said that you answered the question.
Oh,
Using it like instant yeast, is it based on the weight of the flour? Different flavors based on straight, Poolish, levain, biga, all those things. Yeah, there's a lot of different methods and ways to get to it, and that's what we're kind of working towards. And Noel and James and Cameron, who just actually piped in on our Science of Sourdough thread, saying thanks for helming the ship tonight, and sent us some pictures of, I guess, packed boxes. So that's positive. That's positive for sure. So, but yeah, well, hopefully we'll be filling in the blanks, right?
Yeah, I mean one of the ways that we'll be filling in the blanks is also going to be by having people like John here, working to see how he finds the product.
Mhm.
Tom McNaughton from Flour and Water, I helped him initially open his first pizzeria location, and I also helped do a little dough doctoring on their original OG location. And so I'm excited to get Tom some of the product because he, after working with John in 2017, I opened Flour and Water a few years later, I think 2019. And I remember going straight from the opening of Flour and Water, coming home, packing, jumping on a plane and getting to Las Vegas so I could go to John Arena's bakery and start mixing, just like we just did. And we set up a program there where they didn't want to use sourdough. They didn't even want to use pre-ferment, but I convinced them to use some retarders so that we had three different temperature zones, just like we did with John, except we purchased some really nice proof of retarders. So I helped them to start a really beautiful dough program, and now they've added a Poolish to it, but they're still using the three temperature zones over the course of 48 to maybe 96 hours every week, and they're just now opening, I think, their second or third or fourth pizzeria, depending on how you count. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with their pizza product, as well as if they decide to experiment with ours. It's going to be awesome.
Well, I'm excited we'll be doing a bunch more of these classes, and we'll get into some mixing, and we're going to start doing a deep dive on application and filling out the variables in our pizza equation. Noel, you might be using that new uni, or are you going to be using the KitchenAid?
Oh my God. So I'm definitely going to be using the Uni. I'm definitely going to be using the KitchenAid. I'm
Right.
going to be using everything that I possibly can. I'm going to throw the
And
kitchen thing.
yeah, we really have to do that because those are the variables that people are going to be working with, and we need to be willing. Like you said, we got to do it so
Yeah.
we can talk about it and figure it out.
I
So,
need to be a home baker when I'm a home baker, and I need to mix on two 200-kilo spiral mixers when I'm in a bakery, and when I go to John Pizzeria in Chicago, and he has that beautiful, very slow double diving arm mixer. We do it that way. I'm talking to John Darsky right now. John Darsky says hello. I didn't realize that he staged with you back in 2012,
Before the truck.
before Del Popolo.
Yes, yep.
Yeah,
wow.
so he's going to be trying some of our product in the next couple of days as well. So a lot of people
Yeah,
getting into the sourdough pizza game.
that'll be fun. I'm excited to get some see some callbacks and get some good feedback. So that'll be fun. So
Good.
No, can I make one comment?
Sure.
Think just so at this moment, this product is definitely more expensive than the 1 pound box of yeast that we have. And early on, when the only food cost I did probably was on the cost of a pagnotto as the base of everything, the dough ball. And I think it's really important to, somebody said, well, why is this costing a little bit more? And then that person or why is this guy's pizza costing 5 cents and yours costs 50 cents? And it was actually, I think, una pizza napolitana, and Anthony, and he just said, well, at least, they know what their pizza is worth. I know what my pizza is worth. But just to segue into Marcella Hazan, if you read her comments on olive oil, so we bring in a lot of olive oil and a really good quality. And I probably could buy something in America, whether it's finto, fake, that supposedly is Italian. It's either, actually, there's great olive oil from southern Tunisia. There's some great olive oils in Greece. But she talks about the olive oil actually used for pizza to amalgamize, but also as the finisher. You do it twice before when you're introducing it into the oven, the olive oil, the flavor of it goes away, but it helps to incorporate everything, and then you finish it at the end. And so I could finish with an olive oil that's 5 cents a tablespoon, or I can finish one with 50 cents or 40 cents. So if you really think about the marginal increase that would be for that 150 dough ball scale that you had with it, if it's actually costing you another 10 cents or 15 cents for a dough ball, but it brings it to a whole other level or so. That's an important consideration. I look forward to when you get those investors in there and it dials down.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to appreciate the difference in quality, and when you spread it out over 150 dough balls, that the cost of this product is actually not as extreme as it may seem when you just look at that initial comparison of the fresh yeast.
Absolutely.
I got to say, I agree with you 100%, Jonathan. I mean, the graph kind of simplifies it, but think of the man hours and the people that you're hiring that are working with a Poolish and a biga or your sourdough or all that stuff. And this, in theory, will be streamlining it. And so maybe you won't have to have all those hands. They can be shredding cheese or doing this or, doing some other things. So I think once we really delve into it, we'll probably find some different, offsets in cost in other ways that aren't in the graph necessarily, aren't A to B.
Not working with a pizza that's my dead Janus, my dead cold. Taking that factor out. You actually have something a little bit more secure.
Yeah. So
I couldn't think of a better way to end this Zoom than with that comment, huh?
Thank you.
He's alive and well in my heart. So just
beautiful.
Yes.
Well, let me be the first to say thank you, Jonathan, for joining us. And I know that you are extremely busy. You have so much going on. I'm grateful that you spent an hour and 27 minutes with us tonight. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to working with you and John Arena and all of your Italian friends. The more the merrier. So again, I can't wait to see you in person. I'm sorry that you weren't able to make it to the Pizza Expo, but I'm going to come find you.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. Thank you so much for joining and your interest in the product. And we look forward to getting some to you and everybody who joined the webinar tonight. Thank you so much for supporting the project and following us through this journey.
Great.
Well, thank you all so very much for spending some quality time with us. Thank you, Jonathan. It's always good to see you again, my friend. Jimmy, I'm excited to be on this journey with you. Noel, the birthday boy himself. I told you I was going to sing. We wish you a happy birthday. We wish you a happy birthday. We wish you a happy birthday. Let's have some pizza and beer, and may this be your year, and may we drink to your cheer, and may you live with no fear. Let's have some pizza and beer. Love you, buddy. Happy birthday. Ladies and gentlemen, you know the deal. We do not, at Slow Rise Pizza, get into the politics of pepperoni and pineapple. Oh, no. Oh, no. We say pizza always and always pizza, and we're going to be doing some instant sourdough with all the different mixes, so come back and see us. We love spending this quality time with you. Pieces and slices, everybody. We love you. Mwah.
Thank you, everybody.